The letter arrived on a Tuesday, its expensive cream envelope standing out among my stack of student papers. My father's law firm's logo gleamed in the corner, bringing back memories I'd spent 20 years trying to forget. Ms. Alexandra Mitchell, we are writing to inform you of changes to your parents' estate planning. I set the letter down, my hands trembling slightly. After 2 decades of silence, this was how they chose to communicate. Through their lawyers. My name is Alexandra Mitchell, though these days most people know me as Ms. Mitchell, founder of Bright Horizons Academy. At 42, I've built something I'm proud of, something that matters. But 20 years ago, I was just a disappointed daughter being cast out of my family for choosing the wrong career path. The memory of that night still burns clear in my mind. My father, Richard Mitchell, standing in his mahogany-paneled study, my teaching program acceptance letter crumpled in his fist. Teaching. He'd spat the word like it tasted bitter. We didn't pay for 4 years at Princeton so you could waste your life babysitting other people's children. My mother had stood silently by the window, her perfect posture and pressed silk blouse a testament to the privilege she'd married into. Think about what you're throwing away, Alexandra, she'd said softly. The connections, the opportunities. I am thinking. I'd replied, my voice steadier than I felt. I'm thinking about making a difference, about helping children learn and grow. Spare me the idealistic nonsense, my father had cut in. If you want to throw away your potential, fine, but don't expect us to support this phase. He torn the acceptance letter in half, letting the pieces flutter to his imported Persian rug. Choose now. Either join the firm as planned or leave with nothing. I'd chosen nothing. Now, 20 years later, I stared at the law firm's letter, wondering what could have prompted this sudden contact. I'd heard bits and pieces about my family over the years, mostly through old school friends. My father had expanded his firm, opened offices in 3 more cities. My mother still chaired the hospital board's charity committee. They'd written me out of their will years ago, a fact they'd made sure reached me through mutual acquaintances. Ms. Mitchell, my assistant Jenny, poked her head into my office. The parent council meeting starts in 5 minutes. I tucked the letter into my desk drawer. Whatever my parents wanted could wait. I had a school to run. Bright Horizons Academy hadn't started as a grand vision. After leaving home that night with nothing but a backpack and my savings, I completed my teaching certification and taken a job at an inner-city public school. The challenges there, underfunding, overcrowding, students falling through the cracks, had sparked an idea. What if education could be different? What if we could create a school that combined academic excellence with emotional intelligence, that taught not just subjects but life skills? It had started small tutoring sessions in my tiny apartment, then after-school programs in a rented church basement. I'd worked 3 jobs to save money, lived on ramen noodles and determination. My first proper classroom was a converted warehouse space with second-hand furniture and donated books. Now, 15 years later, Bright Horizons occupied a sprawling campus on the outskirts of the city. We had waiting lists 3 years long, revolutionary teaching methods being studied by universities, and most importantly, students who were thriving. The parent council meeting that morning was about our latest expansion plans. We needed more space, more resources to accommodate the growing demand. Parents sat around the conference table, doctors, business owners, community leaders, all united in their commitment to educational innovation. The new STEM wing will cost approximately $12 million, I explained, pulling up the architectural renderings. But it will allow us to double our science and technology programs. And the funding, Dr. Carter, one of our longtime board members, asked. I smiled. Already secured. The Mitchell Education Foundation has been busy. That was the irony my parents had never bothered to discover. While they'd been mourning their daughter's wasted potential in teaching, I'd built something bigger than they could have imagined. The Mitchell Education Foundation, funded initially through my tutoring income and eventually through grants and donations, had grown into a powerful force for educational change. After the meeting, I finally opened my father's law firm's letter completely. The language was formal, detached. Recent changes in your parents' estate planning necessitate a review of certain arrangements. Your presence is requested at a family meeting. Everything okay? Jenny asked, noticing my expression. I folded the letter carefully. My parents want to meet. After 20 years, she knew my story. Most of my staff did. It was part of Bright Horizons' origin story that I rarely shared the full details. Are you going to go? I glanced out my office window at the bustling campus below. Students hurried between classes. Teachers led outdoor discussions under shade trees. Life hummed with purpose and possibility. Everything I'd built without their help or approval. I think I have to, I said finally, if only to show them exactly what their wayward daughter has accomplished. That evening, I sat in my home office, surrounded by the evidence of my journey, awards from educational organizations, news articles about Bright Horizons' innovative programs, photos of graduating classes, hundreds of students who'd gone on to great things. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Maria. Heard about the meeting. Want backup? Maria had been there that night 20 years ago, had let me crash on her couch while I figured out my next steps. She watched me build Bright Horizons from nothing, had celebrated every milestone and setback along the way. I got this, I texted back. Time to show them what teaching can really achieve. I pulled out an old photo album, one of the few things I grabbed that night. In it was a picture of my fifth grade teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, the woman who'd first shown me the power of education to change lives. She believed in me when my own parents couldn't see past their expectations. My phone rang, the law firm's number. Ms. Mitchell, just confirming your attendance at Thursday's meeting. I'll be there, I said firmly, and please tell my parents to bring their estate documents. They might find them educational. As I hung up, I caught my reflection in the window. I wasn't that scared 22-year-old anymore, leaving home with nothing but dreams and determination. I was Alexander Mitchell, educator, innovator, builder of futures. Thursday's meeting would be interesting indeed. The law firm of Mitchell and Associates hadn't changed much in 20 years. The same mahogany paneling, the same oil paintings of stern-faced partners' pasts, the same air of old money and power. I stepped off the elevator in a tailored navy suit, my heels clicking against the marble floor with purpose. Ms. Mitchell, the receptionist, greeted me, her eyes widening slightly with recognition. They're waiting in the main conference room. Of course they were. The main conference room, where my father always held his most important meetings. I played there as a child, drawing quietly in the corner while he negotiated million-dollar deals. I paused outside the heavy double doors, taking a deep breath. Through the frosted glass, I could see three silhouettes, my father, my mother, and someone I assumed was their lawyer. Alexandra, my mother spoke first as I entered, her voice carrying that familiar note of careful control. She aged well, her silver hair elegantly styled, her posture still perfect. You look successful. Hello, Mother. Father. I took a seat across from them, setting my briefcase on the polished table. Shall we discuss why I'm here after 20 years of silence? My father cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable for the first time I could remember. We've been reevaluating certain decisions. Indeed. I raised an eyebrow. And what prompted this reevaluation? Their lawyer, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, shuffled some papers. Perhaps we should begin with the formal aspects. Actually, I interrupted. I'd like to hear it from them. I looked directly at my father. Why now? He shifted in his chair, his legendary courtroom confidence nowhere to be seen. We saw the article in Forbes about Bright Horizons Academy. Ah, the article. America's most innovative educator. How Alexander Mitchell is revolutionizing private education. It had come out last month, complete with a detailed analysis of our $100 million endowment and growing national influence. Fascinating reading, my mother added quickly. We had no idea. No, you didn't. I agreed calmly. You were too busy being ashamed of my career choice to notice what I was building. Alexandra, my father started, but I held up a hand. Let me finish. For 20 years, you've had nothing to say to me. No calls, no cards, not even when Bright Horizons won the National Excellence in Education Award. Not when we opened our second campus, not when the governor appointed me to the state education board. I pulled out my tablet, bringing up our latest financial reports. Would you like to know what your wastrel daughter has been doing while you were pretending she didn't exist? Without waiting for an answer, I began presenting the numbers. Our annual budget, our expansion plans, our scholarship programs. The foundations we'd established, the lives we changed, the future we were building. The Mitchell Education Foundation currently manages assets of over $150 million. I concluded. We've sent over 3,000 students to college who might never have had the chance otherwise. And yes, Father, some of them even became lawyers. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. My father stared at the financial reports, his expression unreadable. "Why didn't you tell us?" he finally asked. I laughed, though there was no humor in it. "Tell you? You made it very clear that teaching was beneath the Mitchell family dignity, that I was throwing my life away. Why would I come back to report my success to people who couldn't see the value in education?" "We were wrong," my mother said softly. It was the first time I ever heard her admit to a mistake. "We were so focused on the path we'd chosen for you, that you missed the path I chose for myself," I finished. "The path that's helped thousands of students find their own way." The lawyer cleared his throat again. "Perhaps now we should discuss the estate changes." I turned to him, my voice steady. "No need. I've seen the documents you sent. You want to add me back into the will, make me a heir again now that I've proven myself worthy of the Mitchell name." My father leaned forward. "Alexandra, please, we're trying to make things right." "Make things right?" I opened my briefcase and pulled out a folder. "These are the names of every student who's graduated from Bright Horizons in the past 15 years. Their stories, their achievements, their dreams. This is what making things right looks like." I stood up, smoothing my skirt. "Keep your money. I've built something far more valuable than your estate could ever be." "Wait," my mother called as I reached the door. "The gala next month, the hospital's annual fundraiser. Would you consider attending? As my guest?" I paused, hand on the doorknob. "Actually, I'm the keynote speaker. The hospital is partnering with Bright Horizons on a new medical education initiative. But you'd know that if you read past the first page of the Forbes article." Walking out of Mitchell and Associates felt different this time. 20 years ago, I left in tears, my dreams seemingly shattered. Now I left with my head high, knowing exactly who I was and what I'd achieved. My phone buzzed as I reached my car. A text from Jenny. "Emergency at school. Mrs. Thompson's advanced chemistry class accidentally created foam that's taking over the science lab." I smiled, already turning toward Bright Horizons. This was where I belonged, dealing with exploding experiments, inspiring young minds, building future leaders. But life has a way of surprising you. 2 days later, a package arrived at my office. Inside was my original acceptance letter to the teaching program, the one my father had torn in half. The pieces had been carefully taped together and framed along with a note. "We saved it. Even when we couldn't understand your choice, some part of us must have known you would prove us wrong. We are sorry. And we are proud." It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. That would take time, trust, and probably more than a few uncomfortable family dinners. It was acknowledgement of my choices, my success, my vision. I hung the framed letter in my office, next to our first student's college acceptance letter. Both represented the same thing: the power of believing in yourself when no one else does. The following week, I received another surprise. My father had nominated Bright Horizons for the city's Business Excellence Award. My mother had joined our parent advisory board. Small steps, but steps nonetheless. During our next board meeting discussing the new STEM wing, Dr. Carter mentioned seeing my parents at a recent education fundraiser. They couldn't stop talking about their daughter, the educational innovator, he said with a smile. "Funny how things change," I replied, but I was smiling too. That evening, standing in front of my office window watching students leave for the day, I thought about legacy. My parents had wanted me to continue their law firm legacy. Instead, I built my own, one that would impact generations to come. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. A student, Emma, one of our scholarship recipients, stood there clutching a college acceptance letter. "Ms. Mitchell." I got in, just like you said I would. I hugged her, remembering my own dreams at her age. "I never doubted you for a second." After she left, I sent a text to my parents. "Student just got into Princeton. Guest teaching has its moments." Their reply came quickly. "Dinner this weekend? We'd love to hear all about it." Sometimes the greatest victory isn't proving others wrong. It's proving yourself right. And sometimes the hardest people to teach are the ones who think they already know everything. I picked up my bag, ready to head home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new chances to make a difference. That's what education is all about, not just learning from the past, but building toward the future. And my future? It was exactly where I'd always wanted it to be, in a classroom, changing lives, one student at a time.
Family dinner at the Martinez house was always an exercise in endurance, but tonight was different. I sat quietly, pushing my mother's paella around my plate while my sister Elena dominated the conversation as usual. And then I told the client that our firm is the top advertising agency in Chicago, Elena was saying, gesturing with her wine glass. Being creative director at Stewart & Brooks really opens doors. Mom beamed with pride. Mi hija brillante. Always knew you'd do great things. I took another bite, remembering all the family dinners just like this one over the past 3 years. Elena's endless accomplishments. My parents' worried glances at their struggling younger daughter. What about you, Carmen? Elena turned to me with that familiar patronizing smile. Still doing that little freelance thing? Just working on some projects, I said neutrally, thinking of the papers I'd signed that morning. Oh, pobrecita, Elena sighed dramatically. Must be hard not having a real career at 30. You know, I could put in a word for you at Stewart & Brooks. Maybe get you started in the mailroom. Dad cleared his throat uncomfortably. Elena. No, really, I want to help. Elena pressed on. Poor thing, still struggling after all this time. Remember when you said you were going to revolutionize digital advertising? She laughed. How's that working out? Before I could respond, Elena's phone rang. She glanced at it and sat up straighter. Sorry, have to take this. It's work. She answered with her professional voice. Elena Martinez speaking. I could hear the voice on the other end clearly in the sudden quiet. Ms. Martinez, the owner wants to see you first thing Monday morning. Elena frowned. The owner? But Mr. Stewart is in London this week. No, ma'am. The new owner. The paperwork was finalized this morning. Stewart & Brooks has been acquired. I stood up, pulling out my own phone. That would be me. The room froze. Elena's phone slipped from her fingers, clattering onto her plate. What did you just say? Elena stammered, her perfectly maintained composure cracking. I pulled up the documents on my phone and slid them across the table. Innovative Digital Solutions, my little freelance thing, acquired Stewart & Brooks this morning for $380 million. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. Dad leaned forward, adjusting his reading glasses as he stared at the papers. This is impossible, Elena said, her voice rising. Stewart & Brooks is Chicago's largest ad agency. You couldn't possibly have the resources? I finished for her. Actually, IDS has been the silent force behind the top-performing digital campaigns for the past 2 years. Those projects I've been working on? Major contracts with Fortune 500 companies. But I would have known. Elena protested. I'm the creative director. You're the creative director of traditional media, I corrected gently. The digital division reports directly to corporate. You never bothered to learn who was behind those campaigns, did you? Dad was still reading the acquisition papers, his eyes widening. Carmen, these numbers. Would you like to see the quarterly reports? I offered, pulling up more documents. We've grown 300% year over year. That revolutionary advertising platform I developed? Turns out big companies will pay a premium for guaranteed results. Elena grabbed the papers, scanning them frantically. This has to be a joke. You've been living in that tiny apartment, driving that old car. Living below my means, I nodded. Investing everything back into the company. While you were buying designer clothes and luxury cars, I was building something. Mom reached for my hand, her eyes glistening. Mi amor, why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked softly. Every time I tried to explain what I was doing, Elena would talk over me about her latest promotion or her corner office. Just then Elena's phone buzzed again. She stared at it in horror as messages started pouring in from her colleagues. The announcement just went company-wide, I explained. They're probably all wondering who Carmen Martinez is and how she managed to buy the company. This isn't fair, Elena whispered, her hands shaking. I've worked there for 8 years. I earned my position. And you can keep it, I assured her. I'm not here for revenge, Elena. The company needs good creative directors. But maybe now you'll understand that success doesn't always wear designer labels or come with a corner office. The silence at the dinner table was deafening. Mom had gotten up to fetch more wine, probably needing a moment to process everything. Dad was still poring over the acquisition documents, occasionally muttering numbers under his breath in disbelief. Elena sat frozen, her paella untouched as notifications kept buzzing on her phone. Each one made her flinch slightly. Monday morning, I said, breaking the silence. 9 a.m. sharp. I'll be addressing the entire company. You can't just walk in and change everything. Elena finally spoke, her voice barely controlled. We have systems, protocols, client relationships. I pulled out my tablet, opening a presentation. You mean like the Thompson account? The one you're about to lose because their Gen Z engagement numbers are dropping. Elena's head snapped up. How did you? I've had access to all company data for the past month during acquisition due diligence, I explained. Your traditional campaigns are solid, Elena, but they're not reaching younger demographics. That's why Thompson's been meeting with other agencies. We have a pitch meeting with them next week, she said weakly. I know. And I'll be there. I scrolled through more data. Along with my team, that increased client engagement by 175% across all digital platforms last quarter. Dad finally looked up from the papers. Carmen, these profit margins, they're unprecedented in the industry. Because we don't just create ads, I explained. We built an AI-driven platform that predicts consumer behavior and adapts campaigns in real time. Those little projects I was working on, testing and refining the algorithm with some of the biggest brands in the world. Mom returned with the wine, her hands still shaking slightly as she poured. But Majita, all those times you came to dinner looking tired, worried about paying rent, was when I was reinvesting every penny into development, I finished. Living in that small apartment meant I could hire top engineers. Driving that old car meant I could acquire cutting-edge servers. Elena's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it and went pale. The CEO of Thompson just emailed me, asking about the ownership change. They've been quietly testing our platform through a subsidiary, I revealed. Their engagement numbers increased 200% in 3 months. That's why they're really meeting next week, to move all their advertising to us. But that's a $50 million account, Elena whispered. We'll be closer to $80 million with the digital integration, I corrected. And they're just the beginning. Remember last month when you laughed about my trip to Silicon Valley? I was meeting with tech giants about implementing our AI across their advertising networks. Dad reached for his wine glass with an unsteady hand. All this time while we were worried about you. I was building an empire, I nodded. Just not in a way that looked impressive at family dinners. Elena stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I need some air. Sit down, Elena, I said firmly. There's more you need to hear. She sank back into her chair, looking defeated. Starting Monday, Stewart & Brooks becomes part of IDS Global, I continued. We're restructuring into specialized divisions, traditional media, digital innovation, and AI development. Each division needs a strong leader. Elena's head snapped up. You're good at what you do, Elena, I acknowledged. Your traditional campaigns win awards for a reason. I'm offering you the chance to lead that division, if you can accept that you'll be reporting to your little sister. The room was silent except for the constant buzz of notifications from various phones. The news was spreading through the industry like wildfire. Why? Elena finally asked. After how I treated you, why offer me anything? Because unlike you, I don't measure success by how many people I can look down on, I replied. I measure it by how many people I can lift up, even those who never believed in me. Mom wiped tears from her eyes. Your father and I, we should have supported you more. You supported Elena because her success was easier to understand, I said gently. Corner offices and fancy titles make more sense than algorithms and digital innovation. I get it. But maybe now you'll understand why I kept saying the future of advertising isn't in glossy magazines. It's in predictive AI and real-time adaptation. My phone buzzed, a message from my executive team. The press release is going live in 5 minutes. Major tech publications are already requesting interviews. Elena was staring at her hands. All those times I offered to help you, tried to get you entry-level positions. You were already running a company bigger than Stewart and Brooks. Ironic, isn't it? I smiled slightly. While you were offering me a mailroom position, I was negotiating the purchase of your entire company. Dad cleared his throat. Carmen, we've been so wrong. Yes, you have, I agreed. But that's the past. Right now, I need to know if Elena is ready to be part of the future. Monday morning, I'm announcing the new structure. I need an answer before then. Elena looked up, tears in her eyes. All these years, I thought I was so much better than you. You were better at playing the traditional game, I acknowledged. But I was busy changing the rules. So what's it going to be? Will you adapt, or should I start interviewing other candidates for division chief? The press release hit at that moment. All our phones buzzed simultaneously. Elena picked hers up, reading the headline. Tech prodigy Carmen Martinez acquires Stewart and Brooks in $380 million deal. Revolutionary AI platform promises to transform advertising industry. She set the phone down slowly. I'll need to see the reorganization plans. I pulled out a folder I'd brought with me, already prepared, including your new compensation package. Elena's eyes widened as she saw the numbers. This is triple my current salary. Success pays well, I said simply, especially when you're on the right side of innovation. Mom started clearing the dishes, her hands still shaking. I'll make coffee. I think we all need it. Make it strong, I suggested, pulling out more documents. Because we're going to be here a while. Elena needs to understand our new direction before Monday's announcement. As Mom headed to the kitchen and Dad continued studying the acquisition papers, Elena looked at me with new eyes. How did you do all this without any of us knowing? I leaned back, allowing myself a small smile. By understanding something you never did, dear sister. True power doesn't come from telling everyone how successful you are. It comes from being successful while they're too busy underestimating you to notice. Just then all our phones buzzed again. Stock prices were already moving in after-hours trading. Stewart and Brooks was up 40% on news of the acquisition. But IDS Global, my company that was previously unlisted, was making headlines with its IPO announcement. Elena stared at her screen. You're taking the company public? Monday afternoon, I confirmed. After the merger announcement. Initial valuation is set at $2.8 billion. The sound of shattering ceramic came from the kitchen. Mom had dropped a coffee cup. Maybe we should switch to decaf, I called out to her. After all, we have a lot to discuss, and Monday morning. I looked directly at Elena. Comes sooner than you think.